Zara, the great hunter of the Zarnoth, was no ordinary predator. Her species, known for their strength and intelligence, had conquered countless planets and hunted the deadliest creatures in the galaxy. She was one of the best and a legend among her people, but this time her mission was different. This time she was hunting a human. Captain Marcus Albright had been sent to the jungle planet of Valara for a mission of exploration. The Federation had hoped to establish contact with the native species, but Marcus's ship had crashed, leaving him stranded in the thick jungle. He was alone, with nothing but his survival gear, and the jungle itself, which was filled with dangers. Unknown to him, the Zarnoth had already been watching. They viewed humanity as an interesting challenge, something to test their skills against. Zara had been sent to capture Marcus alive. It was not her usual hunt. Humans were small, weak, and not much of a challenge. Or so she thought. For the past week, she had been tracking Marcus through the dense jungle, using every skill she had honed over her years of hunting. Her sharp senses allowed her to follow his trail effortlessly. She could smell his scent in the air, see the faint marks of his passing on the trees, and hear the slightest rustling of leaves under his feet. Yet, despite all her advantages, Marcus had been remarkably elusive. Zara had expected to find him easily, but he always seemed to stay one step ahead. He was clever, resourceful, and aware of his surroundings in ways she hadn't anticipated. He set traps, used decoys, and covered his tracks expertly. As the days passed, Zara began to grow frustrated. She had encountered many challenges in her career as a hunter, but this human was unlike any prey she had ever pursued. His ability to think ahead, to adapt to the jungle, was impressive. Zara knew the jungle well. It was her home now, after all. But Marcus had something she didn't, a deep understanding of survival. While Zara could blend into her surroundings with ease, Marcus was making use of every tool he had at his disposal. A simple stone, a branch, a patch of moss. Everything had a purpose, and he used it to his advantage. One evening, as the sun began to set, Zara sat perched on a high branch, scanning the jungle below. The shadows grew long as the last light of the day faded. Her eyes flickered over the landscape, but there was no sign of Marcus. She had been watching for hours, and it was becoming clear that he was just as patient as she was. Zara felt a strange sense of respect for him. Humans, she had always been told, were weak. They lacked the physical power and speed of her kind. They were not designed for hunting. Yet here was Marcus outwitting her at every turn. She had to admit that he was resourceful, perhaps more than she had originally believed. But this was a hunt, and she was the hunter. Zara pushed the thought aside, focusing once more on the task at hand. She had to finish this. She had to capture him. As night fell, Zara moved silently through the jungle, her mind sharp and focused. She knew Marcus had to be close. His scent was fresh in the air. She had tracked him to a small clearing where he had made camp the night before. He had left no signs of where he had gone, but she could sense his presence. Zara crouched low, her body blending into the underbrush as she waited for the slightest movement. The jungle around her was alive with the sounds of nocturnal creatures, the rustling of leaves, and the occasional snap of a twig. She remained still, her eyes scanning every shadow, every corner of the clearing. Suddenly she heard it. A soft, almost imperceptible sound. It was the crunch of a leaf underfoot, followed by the slight swish of fabric against the wind. Marcus was nearby. Zara's heart raced as she moved closer. She could feel the excitement building. This was it. She would catch him now. But as she crept forward, something strange happened. Zara's senses began to betray her. The air felt different. The scent was wrong. It was too quiet. She realized too late that she had walked right into one of Marcus's traps. A net, expertly concealed among the branches, sprang to life, wrapping around her in a flash of movement. Zara cursed under her breath, struggling against the ropes. She had underestimated him once again. The net was tight, and despite her strength, it was proving difficult to escape. As she pulled at the ropes, she heard a voice behind her. "Did you really think it would be that easy?" Marcus said, his voice calm but with a hint of amusement. Zara froze. How had he gotten so close without her noticing? She twisted around in surprise, her eyes locking onto Marcus, who was standing a few meters away, holding a long spear. He looked calm, even confident. "I knew you were getting close," he continued. "You're a good hunter, Zara, but this jungle is my home. I've been living in places like this for years. You're not the only one who can track prey. Zara's pride was wounded. This human had outwitted her, and now for the first time she realized the truth. She was the prey. With a grunt, Zara managed to break free from the net. She stood up quickly, brushing herself off, her eyes never leaving Marcus. The jungle had become her battlefield, but now she was at a disadvantage. Marcus didn't move. He didn't need to. He knew Zara would come after him again. But this time it would be different. He wasn't just running. He wasn't just hiding. He was fighting back. "You're good," Marcus said, his voice serious now. "But you're not as good as you think you are. This is my fight now." Zara's eyes narrowed. She'd been hunting for days, but now, for the first time, she realized the human she was chasing had turned the tables. Marcus wasn't just surviving, and he was thriving. And she was the one who was starting to feel hunted. The days had passed in a blur of relentless pursuit. Marcus and Zara, predator and prey, now found themselves caught in a dangerous game, one that neither of them had expected. Zara, the Zarnoth hunter, had tracked Marcus through the jungle for nearly a week, but the human had proven to be more than just a challenge. With every failed attempt to capture him, Zara had come to respect him. He was no longer just prey. He had become something more, a worthy opponent. The jungle of Valara had become a battleground. The dense, thick trees and strange plants, once a playground for Zara, were now a constant obstacle. Every step she took seemed to lead her deeper into an unpredictable maze. She was no longer the hunter. She was now the hunted. Marcus had carefully set up his traps, using his knowledge of the jungle to turn the environment to his advantage. He had grown up on Earth, in places where survival was a constant challenge. While Zara had the advantage of speed and strength, Marcus had the advantage of cleverness and adaptability. He had learned to use everything around him, the trees, the vines, the water, the rocks, to stay one step ahead. It was early morning when Zara realized she had been walking in circles. She had been tracking Marcus's scent all night, but every time she thought she had him, she found herself in the same clearing. She was becoming tired, frustrated, and confused. The jungle felt alive, but its mysteries were now closing in on her. She needed to regain control. Zara climbed to the highest tree she could find, hoping to get a better view of the landscape below. From up there, she could see the whole area. Her keen eyes scanned the jungle floor, searching for any sign of Marcus. He was elusive, but he couldn't hide forever. From above, Zara spotted something, a trail. Not a normal trail, but a carefully laid out path like a message. It was a series of broken branches and overturned leaves, leading toward a dense patch of jungle. Marcus was clearly trying to lead her somewhere. For a moment, Zara hesitated. She knew it was a trap, but she was tired of the chase. She had underestimated him, and now it was time to finish it. With a determined snarl, she leaped down from the tree and followed the trail. As she moved through the jungle, she realized just how much Marcus had already prepared. The path was a clever mix of decoys and real signs. He was trying to mislead her, but Zara's instincts told her that she was getting closer. The air was thick with tension. Suddenly, the ground beneath her feet shifted. Zara stumbled, and before she could react, the ground caved in. She fell into a pit, landing with a heavy thud at the bottom. Her body ached as she slowly rose to her feet, dusting herself off. The pit was deep, and she could see the trees above her, far out of reach. A voice echoed down from above. "Gotcha." Zara's heart skipped a beat as she looked up to see Marcus standing at the edge of the pit. He had managed to outwit her once again. He was calm, collected, and had a satisfied smile on his face. Zara's anger flared. How had he done it? How had he known she would follow the trail and fall into his trap? The pit was simple but effective. Marcus had turned the jungle itself into a weapon. "You clever human," Zara muttered, her voice filled with frustration. Marcus didn't reply right away. He just looked down at her, his expression a mixture of respect and amusement. "You've been a tough one to catch," he said. "But you're not as invincible as you think. I've had enough of running." Zara was trapped. She had no way of getting out of the pit without Marcus's help, and she knew that if she tried to escape on her own, he would be waiting ready to finish the hunt. For a moment, Zara stood still, considering her options. She could try to climb the walls of the pit, but they were too steep and smooth. She could call for help, but she had no one to call. She was alone, and for the first time in her life, she felt vulnerable. As she stood there thinking, something inside her began to change. She had always been the predator, the one in control. But now she was the prey, and that made her angry. She didn't like being at a disadvantage, but she would not give up. Not yet. What now? Zara asked, her voice sharp. Marcus was quiet for a moment before he spoke. I'm not here to finish this, Zara. I don't need to kill you. I just wanted to prove something. Zara raised an eyebrow. She had expected him to finish the job, but instead, he was offering her something else. Something unexpected. What are you talking about? Zara asked, confused. Marcus leaned over the edge of the pit, looking down at her with a calm expression. I wanted to show you that the jungle is more than just a place for hunting. It's about survival. It's about knowing when to fight and when to adapt. You're not the only one who can survive here. Zara's eyes narrowed. You think I'm weak? She growled. No, Marcus replied. But I think you've underestimated me. And now, you've learned something. The jungle doesn't belong to any one of us. It's bigger than both of us. And if we're going to make it out alive, we have to work together. Zara was silent for a long moment. She had never considered that option before. She had always hunted alone, and the idea of relying on someone else was foreign to her. But there was something in Marcus's words that made her pause. She had been so focused on the hunt, on proving her superiority, that she had ignored the most important lesson. Survival. Finally, Zara spoke. You're right. I've been foolish. Marcus grinned. It's not about winning or losing, Zara. It's about surviving. He lowered a rope down to her, and after a moment's hesitation, Zara grabbed hold of it. As Marcus helped her out of the pit, she felt a strange sense of respect for him. They had both been through so much, and in the end, they had both learned something from each other. Zara stepped out of the pit and looked at Marcus. For the first time, she saw him not as prey but as an equal. They had both survived the jungle, not by fighting but by understanding it. The two of them stood in silence for a moment, the jungle around them alive with the sounds of distant creatures and the rustling of leaves. They had reached an unspoken understanding. Their battle had ended not with a victor but with mutual respect. Let's get out of here, Marcus said, breaking the silence, before we both end up as prey. Zara nodded, her pride still intact but tempered with a newfound appreciation for the human before her. Together they began their journey out of the jungle, knowing that their survival depended on more than just strength and speed. It depended on the ability to adapt, to learn, and to work together. This is part 2 of the story, where the dynamic between Marcus and Zara shifts as they both learn from each other, realizing that survival in the jungle isn't about defeating each other, but about mutual respect and adaptation. Let me know if you'd like to modify any part or need further changes.